Welcome to Everyday Enlightenment. I'm your host, Patty Teal. I'm coming to you today from Sedona Mago Retreat, an amazingly beautiful retreat center located in the high desert near Sedona, Arizona. I think you're really going to enjoy today's show. My guest is Dr. Jeffery Thompson. He is the founder, director of the Center for Neuroacoustic Research in Carlsbad, California, a research center which is actualizing its vision of healing the body, heart, mind, and spirit through the scientific application of sound. Dr. Thompson is considered the world's premier sound healing researcher, brainwave entrainment expert, oh my goodness, and high-tech personal transformation innovator, motivator, and futurist. He is a physician, musician, composer, inventor, educator, and author. I think he's a little bit busy. His work addresses harmony between the body, mind, spirit, and is clinically proven to foster deep personal wellness and expansion of consciousness. Certified in multiple healthcare modalities, Dr. Thompson draws people nationally and internationally to his clinical practice and to his cutting edge auditory, kinesthetic, and visual therapeutic products and services. Welcome, Dr. Jeff.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm really doing well. Thank you so much. I really am so fortunate. I had the pleasure to meet you briefly at a film festival that's held annually in Sedona called the Illuminate Film Festival. And you had like a massage table set up, and we put something on our eyes that lights flashed, and there was sound, beautiful sound going on, and there was vibration, and it was just seemed like every sense was being used. Can you describe what that treatment is for and what it is?
Yeah, that was a specially designed sound table. It has these low frequency transducers, like kind of like speakers without the cone, attached to a sounding board, and then that's upholstered, and you're laying on top of it. So the low frequencies are coming right into your cells and your body, and that synchronized up with what you're hearing through headphones, and that's synchronized up with what you're uh, seeing through these light glasses with little light bulbs going. The lights are driven by the sound, so you're seeing what you're hearing, what you're feeling. Your eyes are closed, so the lights are flashing on your closed eyelids, and it's creating these kind of mandala patterns and things generated by your visual cortex. The idea is to synchronize the three primary perceptual modes of the brain: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. You know, you've heard that there's visual type people and auditory type people and physical type people, kinesthetic type people. So when you synchronize those up, you're kind of going to a gym for the brain, and it synchronizes up, exercises up the non-dominant mode. And
Wow.
that's the physical mode, the kinesthetic mode. You know, so I'll get somebody who who's overweight, and his doctor is like you know scaring him with thoughts of diabetes and heart attack and stroke, and so he wants to try to lose weight, looks in the mirror and doesn't like what he sees, decides he's going to jog in the morning, sets the alarm clock for 6 o'clock in the morning, and when it goes off, the person who made the decision to run was the visual center, and the one who has to get up in the morning is the kinesthetic center. And it goes, hey, wait a second, I didn't vote for this, and to get exercised up to a same level playing field as the visual center, which is usually dominant.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all of a sudden, one day, your physical body has a voice in your field that it didn't have before. And so now this is the guy who will call me up and go, uh, what have you done to me? You know, I had my dessert after dinner and now I've got the shakes. And you're going, well, you always had the shakes. That's a sugar rush, but you could never feel it before, but now you can. So now you have direct feedback from the correct center to change your behavior of what you eat. Because when you eat good food and healthy food, it makes you feel a certain way. When you eat junk food and crappy food, it makes you feel a different way. But normally you can't feel that. So it's all left to the wrong center to make a decision, because I don't like how I look. It's not, I don't like how I feel.
Wow, that's really fascinating. So, is the purpose to, I just kind of zoned out and felt like I went on a ride to another planet, but is the purpose to actually have a goal in mind or a visualization as you're having this experience?
Yes, when we're doing this technique, well, what you experienced was a generic soundtrack, and
Hmm.
I have a number of those kind of out on the market, which are based on population studies of large population groups of patients that I've seen over the years. So it kind of shows me what kind of brain entrainment, what kind of music soundtrack lends itself to different brain states, and different brain states are associated with different outcomes that you might want. Creativity or meditation or healing or relaxation or peak performance. Each of those has a specific type of brain state. And we can use something called acoustic brainwave entrainment to entrain your brainwaves to any state we want. So if we use research from one field that shows EEG studies of meditators in very high states of meditation show this brain pattern, we can then use sound waves to entrain your brain waves to exactly that pattern to kind of shortcut to a high state of meditation.
Wow. Are those well known? I mean, do other people, other experts know that this type of a sound or this type of a vibration induces a certain pattern in your brain?
It's there's a pie wedge of people who understand and know about this.
Hmm.
The original research was done by a Mount Sinai Hospital researcher named Gerald Oster, and he published an article in the December 1973 issue of Scientific American called Auditory Beats in the Brain. This is the guy who originally did that research, published it in Scientific American, and that began the whole movement that we see now with brainwave entrainment soundtracks. And there's a number of them out there. He's the one that discovered this idea of brain entrainment. And the idea is based on how my body clocks work. All of my body clocks are timing themselves to the world, pulses in the world. For instance, women will have ovulation every 28 and a half days, timed with the full moon cycle. And if you're out of step with the moon cycle, you have an irregular period. And you can fix that by entraining your body back to a different clock. So the same kind of an idea. If the earliest kind of use of this technique would have been maybe shamanic drumming techniques.
Hmm.
Where you have a shaman beating a drum, and that drum is being beat at a certain speed. So for instance, let's pretend that this Kleenex box is a drum. And if I start pounding this drum, that's about right.
Hmm.
I can record that, put it in my recording studio, and that's about 4.5 cycles per second. 4.5 cycles a second drum beat is a theta brainwave. That's where you go when you're dreaming. And if you're making a sound pulse at a brainwave speed, your brainwaves will try to lock on to that external pulse because that's what the brain does in order to save energy. And that means that I'll go from a waking state in beta down through alpha and down into deep theta without going to sleep first. That's a classic definition of a trance state.
Would that be the state you're in lucid dreaming as well?
Same kind of an idea, except you have a mix of brain frequencies.
Oh.
In that case, you're trying to wake somebody up from a dream sleeping state.
Mm-hmm.
Not wake them up enough to completely wake them up, but only wake them up to wake them up in a dream. And that's a very difficult thing to do. It's much easier to take somebody who's awake and entrain their brainwaves down into a dream state without going to sleep.
Ah.
Right? That's a shamanic journey technique.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is so fascinating. So, if someone were to come to see you, I know they also can listen to your recordings and get benefits as well. But if someone was going to be a private client, patient of yours, would they first talk to you about what their goals are and what their problems are or what they want to accomplish, and then together, or you plan a treatment program or certain sounds that will help them?
Most people who come to me, I kind of am the witch doctor at the end of the trail. After they've
Hmm.
tried everything else, they come to me. Uh, and so I end up with patients with a lot of very bizarre conditions. Um, I have a lot of success with neurological conditions. I have a big practice with kids, ADD, ADHD,
Oh.
autism, epilepsy, concussion. I have practice with PTSD and or pain syndromes, whatever it is. It's the imbalances that you experience as symptoms that are coming from
Hmm.
different parts of your body that are functionally not working properly. Um, it's not their fault. If you've got problems with your kidneys or your liver or your low back or your headaches or whatever, it's not their fault because no system in your body is working autonomously. Every system in your body is only doing what it's told to do from central command. And central command has a program that automatically controls everything and coordinates the global dance of all the systems in your body. And it does it automatically without you thinking about it. And the center of that command system is a neurological system called the autonomic nervous system, as in automatic functioning nervous system that I don't have to think about.
Hmm.
Uh, Underlying that is an organic biological intelligence that knows how to grow your body out of two cells and differentiate the tissues into all the different things that you are and then make it all function automatically without you thinking about it. That's kind of like the internal physician program.
Hmm.
Um, and nobody's been able to figure out how to get to that system to hit the reset button. So everybody's kind of stuck down in the trenches with individual systems trying to fix different systems, when in reality they're networked into a much larger dance that's going on. So my innovation is 22 years ago, I participated with a company to create something called a real-time heart rate variability program. Now, heart rate variability had been around before. It takes you put some sensors on your wrists, and it collects the heart information, the electrical information from your heart, does some different math, pops up new screens on your computer, and what those screens are showing you is the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system, the two big branches of nerves that come out of the autonomic nervous system, which is the master control system that tells everything what to do. And it does that by sending signals down these two giant branches of nerves. One of the branch of nerves, sympathetic, is involved with my fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic is involved with relaxation and digestion and elimination. And when you're not doing any of those activities, you should have the clutch pushed in homeostasis. So homeostasis is where we should live, unless I have to fight for my life, and in which case the sympathetic turns on, mobilizes my energy to do that activity, and then pushes the clutch back in. And so because I've got this computer screen that can look at this live, I can see your sympathetic parasympathetic on a computer screen live functioning. I can do some simple tests to see if it's functioning normally. And if it's not functioning normally, I can make it function normally by exposing you to a very specific sound wave that's tuned accurate to a couple of decimal points. And I put that through this sound table into your body, and I watch how your nervous system responds to it. Because I don't know which tone to use, I've created a sound sweep that sweeps through every frequency. So you're laying on this table with every frequency slowly rising through your body. And as it reaches the sweet spot for you, you can see on the computer screen the stress level of your autonomic nervous system is collapsing down into homeostasis. And the moment it hits homeostasis, I know what frequency pushes your reset button.
Wow. So in live time, you're figuring out how to help people.
So once I find out from this readout which frequency
Mm-hmm.
to use, now we're going to be playing this frequency through your body. We're going to be calculating various octaves of that frequency. And if we calculate extremely low octaves, octaves that drop, an octave is double the frequency or 1/2 the frequency. So if I find a frequency that works, 1/2 of that frequency works, and 1/2 of
Oh.
that frequency works, and 1/2 of that frequency works. Those are octaves. And if I continue calculating these octaves down, I'll drop below the lowest range of human hearing at 20 hertz. But on my calculator, I'll still come up with a string of numbers that get lower and lower. Those numbers represent brainwave frequencies, states of consciousness that are associated with homeostasis. So now if I use this brainwave entrainment technique to entrain your brainwaves to one of these octave brain states of the tone that makes homeostasis, I can make homeostasis just by entraining your brainwaves and without any sounds coming through the table. Because now I'm getting homeostasis by picking the lock of a neural program through brainwave entrainment, because I can train your brainwaves to a very specific brain state accurate to a couple of decimal points. So if I combine those two together, I've got all these octaves of sound waves coming through your body, and then I've got the brain entrainment thing going on that's picking the lock of homeostasis from the inside of your brain. It compounds together and becomes more powerful. Your experience is you're on this table with the sound waves coming through all your cells. It's very beautiful. It's very relaxing. Through the headphones, there are all these various octaves of sounds swirling around, and they're driving the lights, so you're seeing patterns, and it's all coordinating together in your brain, synchronizing up your hemispheres and the visual cortex and the auditory cortex and the kinesthetic cortex and the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic modes in this kind of grand
Orchestra. Yes.
synchronized event in the nervous system in homeostasis.
So if someone was very visual or very auditory after one treatment or many treatments, I'm not sure how many it might take, everything would be balanced and equally in homeostasis is the word that you used. Is that
It's
partly the
it's
goal?
like going to a gym.
Mm-hmm.
After that first session, you definitely feel balanced and centered and without pain.
Mm-hmm.
And each successive session is like going to a gym. Those systems get stronger. Every time you go to this homeostasis synchronicity, it becomes stronger to go there. And it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. It's like if you went to a gym and you saw a personal trainer and he showed you how to use the equipment and you worked out and you came home, looked in the mirror and said, well, gyms don't work.
Right.
It's kind of hard to keep up with it. You've got to do something over to muscle up that part of your brain. And in this case, we're muscling up the autonomic nervous system to a state of ambidextrous synchronicity of the three primary systems. And balancing your brain out that controls all your body parts. When it's balanced, it sends the correct signals down to the body parts, and whatever was wrong with those parts isn't wrong anymore. In other words, I don't have to go down and work on your liver or work on your low back or work on your headache because those are only symptoms trying to gain your attention to tell you that something's going on, something's wrong, something's imbalanced. Smoke alarms going off in your house, right? The smoke alarm's not the problem. Smoke alarm is going off to tell you there's a fire somewhere.
Wow. I'm so amazed that you were able to kind of unravel this mystery and figure it out. I know as I've read about you, you have really a very varied background, chiropractic expertise, musical expertise, educational expertise. So it seems like you put everything together and managed to kind of figure this out.
Yeah, I kind of more look upon it as being shamelessly manipulated by forces that are bigger than me.
That's a good explanation. Yes. Yeah.
Events that one thing led to another. One little decision you make that seems innocuous at the time
Yes. And
turns out
then, yeah,
to
you
be
look back and go, "Oh, that's why I had to learn that." Yes. Yeah.
one of those
Hmm.
things
So
where
neurological issues, anxiety, this must be very helpful for people that have severe anxiety.
people have anxiety attacks.
Mhm.
When you see those people, when you look at their nervous system on this computer screen, the sympathetic function has collapsed. Their stress handling system has collapsed. You can see it on the screen. And that means that when you're in that condition, your body feels that your survivability is impaired.
Mhm.
In other words, if you don't have your sword or your armor or your shield anymore, and you've got no bank account left because it's been drained, you're essentially in the corner shivering and sucking your thumb. I mean, essentially on the inside, that's what's going on in your system.
Right.
Periodically, your system does a self readout, it does a self diagnostic mode. How am I doing? What's my survivability quotient? And it comes up with red numbers.
Yeah.
Body kind of freaks out.
Mhm.
And it's all under the radar. You don't know why you're breaking out into a sweat and shaking all over. You have no idea why this is happening. And you go to all these doctors and they don't know what's happening. They want to give you a happy pill.
Yes, they do.
They
And
want to,
that kind of gets a vicious cycle going where, the pill wears off and you need it even more. So,
well, it's like missing the point. If I'm
mhm.
sitting in my living room watching my favorite movie and the smoke alarm goes off, I'm prescribed earmuffs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I'm prescribed surgery to remove the
Mhm.
batteries from the smoke alarm. And then the fire has worked its way to the couch and it's burning up my arm, so they prescribe cortisone cream. It's missing the point so profoundly.
Yes. Yeah.
It's you know it's really it's what the film was about. The Heal documentary film
Mhm.
that was at the film festival where I met you.
Yes.
The whole idea there is that the health delivery system that we've currently got, that is in charge and in control, is missing the point.
Mhm.
It's great in ICU when we're saving your life, or in emergency room where I've been in a big accident. But
Mhm.
everything in between is a functional disorder. And when you use the tools of pathology to treat functional disorders, you create pathology. Uh,
Yeah. So, do people have to see you in person so that you can adjust the dial, so to speak, to find the right, I'm calling it by the wrong names, I'm sure, uh, vibrational patterns to help them? Or once you've seen them, can you prescribe them things long distance? Or is this something that has to be done in person?
um, the customized soundtracks that I've just described, that has to be done in person because I have to hook you up.
Hmm.
Nervous system looks like. Um, and the uh, the unfortunate thing about that is that it forces people to fly in from various parts of the world.
Hmm.
A family who flies in with their epilepsy child from Denmark, for God's sake,
Right. Hmm.
makes me crazy. So I spent the last 5 years trying to automate this process that I do by hand.
Hmm.
Um, and I finally finished that just 2 months ago. So now I've got the whole system automated. So now I can actually train practitioners to do this technique. And that's kind of the only solution I can think of, is to get more of me out there, train people in what I'm doing, and spew them out in the world so that you don't have to fly all the way to California. You can go to the website and look up a map of the world and
See where there's someone else that could help you. Yes. That sounds like a pretty good solution.
Meantime, there's all these generic soundtracks that can begin the process. If somebody calls me up from Denmark and says, I've got a child who's got autism,
Mm-hmm.
do you think this would help? I can say, buy the autism set of CD
Mm-hmm. Right.
and use them in this way. There's 6 CDs. Use them in this way for 6 weeks. And
How
if
many different sets do you have? So you have
I have 90
90.
tracks sold in every country in the world.
Oh my goodness.
I've been doing this for a long time, 35
Oh,
years.
amazing. And do you have something that would help with, say, autoimmune disorders and inflammatory disorders, or you just kind of keep
Well,
adding to your collection?
so inflammatory and autoimmune disorders is not so much what you're allergic to, it's that your immune system is inappropriately identifying friendly proteins as foreign invaders, right? So that's the problem. So the problem is to fix your immune response. But your immune response is tied into your autonomic nervous system. And when your autonomic nervous system is running a fight or flight response all the time that never ends, then by definition, it's extracting energy from your gut, elimination system, immune system, higher brain centers, and putting it in your muscles to fight for your life. So you've got high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and all of these systems not working. So over time, in this particular case, it's your immune response that's the weak link in your particular chain, and that's where your first symptoms will pop up.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have some kind of allergic response. You'll have mucous membrane allergies, or you'll have skin conditions, or you'll have an autoimmune disease, or whatever it is, because the energy has been extracted from your immune system for so long that it can't possibly function properly, so it starts inappropriately identifying friendly proteins as bad ones. The fix for it is to hit the reset button for the autonomic nervous system and get the clutch pushed back in so that the energy can drain out of your muscles back into all the systems again. Right? So it's the same thing with fibromyalgia. If you, the top gland of the stress handling response, the fight or flight response, is the adrenal glands. So if they're overworked over decades of running a fight or flight response for too long, they get weakened. And when they get weakened, it's not just adrenaline that gets low, which makes me fatigued all the time, chronic fatigue syndrome. But the corticosteroid hormones get too low. And those are supposed to be circulating around to suppress unneeded inflammation responses in my joints and muscles from normal motion. But if it's too low, joint motion and muscle motion causes pain. All the tests come back negative, so they slap a big fancy name on it, call it fibromyalgia, and give you a happy pill.
Or they tell you you have a very vivid imagination and that you don't have anything at all, which happens to a lot of people with fibromyalgia.
And it's weak adrenal glands and low corticosteroid hormones.
Mm-hmm.
That's why steroid medications tend to help fibromyalgia, because you're artificially reintroducing the steroid hormone that mimics the corticosteroid hormones that the adrenals is supposed to be producing. The problem is they have side effects and they destroy joint tissues and other bad things that aren't supposed to happen. Because, I remember my mom, when my dad died, my mom ended up with high blood pressure for the first time in her life. And she was put on 3 different medications to control her blood pressure. They couldn't get it under control. And I remember one time she said to me, I don't mind taking these medications as long as somebody's working on why I've got the high blood pressure so we can fix that problem. And I had to tell her that that is not part of the plan. Nobody's looking for why you've got the high blood pressure. As far as they're concerned, the pills is the cure. And I could see the gears turning in her brain. It's like, but wait a second, doesn't that mean that I was born with a lack of pills?
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty good analogy that she came up with. My goodness. I mean, I was fascinated when I read about all this, but I had no idea that you could help with so many different kinds of ailments. My goodness.
What kind of conditions can you treat with this technique? And
Mhm.
my answer to that is any kind of condition that's got stress as its foundation factor. And when you think about it, that is everything.
Wow.
Everything is a result of stress. How am I
Uh-huh.
handling the stresses of life coming at me?
Hmm.
Physical stresses, emotional stresses, mental stresses, belief system stresses, spiritual issues. The same stress handling system, the autonomic nervous system, handles the stresses from all those various systems.
Hmm.
All rely on the physical system to handle the stress. And if that system is awry, overworked, has its fuses blown, is not functioning properly, then various systems are going to start malfunctioning and the smoke alarms are going to start going off. And when you go to a medical doctor, they give you a pill to silence the smoke alarm.
Now, if somebody buys a set or collection of your recordings for whatever they feel their problem is, how long does it typically take for them to start seeing some improvement?
Oh, you usually see improvement by the time the soundtrack is over.
Wow, amazing.
Depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
So, for instance, say that you've got chronic insomnia, you can't sleep, and you don't want to take pills. You don't want to get addicted to pills. You've tried all kinds of different things. You buy the soundtrack. The top soundtrack I've produced for sleep is the Delta Sleep System.
Hmm.
You buy the soundtrack, you play it in your bedroom at night, and uh, I'd say for 85 to 90% of the people, it's over.
Wow. So, can you tell our listeners the website so they could go there, peruse it, and try to figure out what might help them?
Yeah, the website is scientificsounds with an S.com, plural, scientificsounds.com. And it's got articles about my work, what I'm doing. It's got a scientific section of articles, the science behind it all. It has a sound store where you can go and look at all these albums and click on them and hear them. Um, the albums are in classifications because there's so many of them. They're classified in meditation, um, relaxation, healing, creativity, learning, memory. There's a section on NASA space sound recordings, which we have to do another show for because recordings from outer space.
Oh, I only hope I could do another show. I have so many things to ask you, and I want to just say that again. It's scientificsounds.com, and that's where I'm going as soon as we get off. I have just one more question, and then I'm afraid we're out of time for today. You obviously have right and left brain that are very integrated and work so well together. I mean, from all these scientific explanations and the music and the creative side, as well as the scientific side. Are you a living testimonial to this uh, training and this entrainment? Do you use it yourself?
Oh yeah, nah, I don't use that stuff. I take drugs.
Because you're pretty darn smart there, Dr. Jeff. You really have got it together here. So
Find
every night, maybe?
Oh, I don't listen every day, but it's like,
Hmm.
if you go to the gym every day to get a certain type of physique, once you
Hmm.
achieve that physique, you don't have to go every day,
Right, right.
right? You would maybe want to go every day again if you wanted to buff up to a new level.
Hmm.
Once you've reached that level, then you end up in a steady state. You don't have to do that as
You
often.
just have to maintain, but you're not having to forge new paths.
The idea here is that the sound frequencies that I'm using to
Hmm.
balance things out and heal things. That's not an end in itself. No therapy is. The therapy
Hmm.
is supposed to get you well, get you fixed, get you back together again. And once you're back together again, you don't need me anymore.
Hmm.
You don't need to listen to a soundtrack every day. Once you're once you're there. I mean, at some point,
You've achieved balance, yes.
no longer a broken person trying to get fixed. You're a fixed person asking, now what?
Yeah, well, it could be better.
I think
Yeah,
it's truly all about. It's really sound used and brain entrainment being used to wake up,
right.
maximize my potential as a human living being.
Yeah.
That's how sound has been used in various cultures around the planet since the beginning.
Hmm.
Bowls and chanting and meditation gongs and mantras, and those techniques using sound have been there to wake you up.
Right. What a great explanation.
That's what.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jeffery Thompson. Website, scientificsounds.com. I so appreciate you being my guest today, and I am certainly going to try to take you up on your offer to come back in the near future. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye now.